And then full screen, yeah.
Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just full screen. Just, yeah. There we go.
Good. Okay, let me go back a little bit. Okay, this is actually, I'm really happy that I'm very close with the previous keynote speaker, because I'm going to analyze something a little bit totally different from a different scale. So we're going to move to the macro scale instead of the micro scale that we had from the previous speaker. So we're going to analyze seedling transplanting response under irrigation treatments to successfully transplant semi-arid Mediterranean ecosystems under the challenges of climate change. I want to thank very much the organization, the people that organized this international conference webinar. Really happy to be part of it. So thank you very much for this. So we talked about it a little bit myself. So it was a very good introduction, actually. I'm having a few more here. So at the moment, I am the academic director of the Mediterranean College of Thessaloniki. So I'm at the very center road of Thessaloniki. So you might hear some noise around from cars. So it's just the people that are moving around. It seems COVID has not influenced much our area here. So everything is running pretty well, including the functionality of the college. I am having this, this is part of my volunteer kind of work as a scientist. And I have those additional 4 here because they're going to be connected with the discussion that, and the presentation that I'm having afterward, you know, the next slides that I'm going to show you. So I'm pretty much considered one of the Mediterranean experts of climate change and environmental change. Very proud to be part of that association. I'm also at the board of the Association of Inter-Balkan Women's Cooperation Societies, which is kind of like a branch of UNESCO, in accordance to being the scientific member of the UNESCO Chair Connect at the International Hellenic University, as well as I'm very proud to be part of the International Networking of Bioresources Management, which is a worldwide association at the northern part of America, as well as very well connected with India. So let's see what we're having here. Let's start a little bit on a roadmap. So we're going to start a little bit on the need and the aim of the research that I'm pretty much doing, part of my research, okay? Methodology, some results that we have, future research that we're working on, and of course dissemination and education, which I think should be all part of it, including the publications and all the scientific kind of work, but also other types of dissemination, because people need to know our work at a different level, at a different audience, not only the scientific audience. So let's start. The need for research is actually Mediterranean ecosystems. Pretty much most of you might be aware of the Mediterranean ecosystems. They are very intense drought-oriented periods, especially during the summer. Some of you might experience similar kind of climate situations. And of course, that causes a lot of alterations of the growth period due to the climate change. So we do here in Greece, for example, we do see intense disturbance events. Fires are part of it, but also floods. But what you can see here at the photo, it's not, it seems water, but it's not. It's actually frozen water. So we do consider Mediterranean ecosystems. They are pretty much part of the warm climate. But we should not forget the early freezing temperatures, the early springtime, which are all also causing a lot of problems when we're trying to regenerate areas. So just to keep in mind, here you can see Quercus species we try to transplant. It's pretty hard to be successful, particularly for this species. So it's highly demanding for, not just for water, but for soils. But here we can see that irrigation problems, especially during summers, they're very intense. And this actually reduces the production and the quality of the seedlings that we have at the nurseries, but also the reduction of the transplanting success. It's really hard to grow the seedlings, do all this effort, transplant them, put them on the side, and eventually they die. It's a lot of work, and we shouldn't actually have this kind of result. We should be a little bit more successful on our efforts to regenerate the sites. So this is a nursery in Greece. This is a public forest nursery that I had the opportunity to collaborate. A lot of high quality and quantity of seedlings, they need to be produced, particularly when we have to regenerate sites after disturbance events. And this is one of the problems. So the aim of the research is pretty much drought preconditioning. There are different types of preconditioning. This is pretty much pre-treating the seedlings prior to the transplant. So one of the pre-treating treatments is the watering. You pretty much get the seedlings ready to experience this kind of a drought prior to transplant. So this one, based on research, it has been indicated that it's actually increasing the transplanting success. So seedlings that have undergone these degrees of stress, they have characteristics that help them overcome the transplanting stress. And usually when the preconditioning is drought, they're characterized with really good, vigorous roots. And those vigorous roots, they have been associated with increased, the acclimation of the seedlings is better, so the survival of those seedlings is even greater than what to be expected. One of the species that I've been working is Quercus pubescens. It's one of the species that I really like. It's a dry tolerant species, Mediterranean areas, you can find those. Highly used by the forest nurseries for regeneration efforts. And of course, the ecological value of this species is very high. This is that it provides the ability to have these vigorous trees to provide nests for the animals, the birds, and everything. It's really make it one of the top species, at least on my preferences. So pretty much the methodology, we put the seedlings under 5 irrigation frequencies. Pretty much here you can see we have 3 irrigations per week. We have 2 irrigations per week, 1 irrigation per week, 1 irrigation per 2 weeks, and 1 irrigation per 4 weeks. 1 irrigation once a month. So these are the 5 treatments that we studied here. And we wanted to see how those seedlings would actually tolerate this kind of conditions. So we put them there for 1 month and studied their characteristics. You can see from the picture what actually is going on. Now, those seedlings, actually we have those 5 irrigation treatments. We wanted to estimate the ability of those seedlings to produce new roots, and how we can actually do that is by estimating root growth potential. And what is root growth potential? It pretty much estimates the physiological ability of the seedlings to produce new roots. So once we have our seedling, we transplant it outside in the environment that we want, and then we can see how that species is able to respond based on the growth and the effort for growing roots. So it's pretty much a good surrogate for the potential field performance of that species. So what we're trying to do is use this kind of growth chamber. Once we have tested the 1 month of those seedlings, the 5 irrigation treatments, we put them at the growth chamber. It's a pretty much controlled environment with 18 hours of day, 6 hours of night. You can control that. You can control the temperature, but these are the temperatures that we used. We place them in steel containers mixed with peat and sand, 1 by 1. Sand really helps the proliferation and the growth of the roots with not putting obstacles. So the seedling is not putting a lot of effort, so it's growing freely. So then we can estimate, and you can see here those really nice white roots that they're growing and the differentiation among those seedlings. So they've grown for enough, and then we took them out and evaluated for 1 more month. We let them grow in this controlled kind of chamber to estimate this root growth of those seedlings. These are the results that we pretty came up. You can see the picture here, and you can see the soil moisture. This is something that we expected because we watered and then we kind of decreased the watering. But also you can see the water potential that we got from the leaves. You can see that pretty low values for quercus. It's a species that can tolerate actually low water availability. But here at the 1 watering every 2 weeks, we can see that the seedlings are very highly stressed. They're highly stressed, you can see here in the picture, but some of them they can still tolerate and can maintain their vigors with no problem. These are the seedlings that we want to look at. These are the seedlings that we want to see. You know, if we water our seedlings only once every 2 weeks, it's really great benefit. Because just think about it, we had to transplant mountainous areas. When you transplant, it's in the contract, most of them, they have to water for a month, and then they go every other day up on the mountain to water those seedlings. If they don't have to do that, and they just have to go and water once every week or once every 2 weeks, this is going to save a lot of time, a lot of water that during the summer times is very valuable for areas like Greece, because most of these waters, you can know it, Greece is very touristic area, and the availability of water, especially in the islands, is very, very limited. So let's see a little bit. This is actually the seedlings that they were tested out in the field, but they were in the containers, and then they were transplanted in the growth chamber. And here you can see the result after 1 month. The ones that they had one watering every 4 weeks, so this means 1 watering a month, they didn't quite make it. They died. But we expected that. So let's see a little bit about this root growth potential. We can see that the maximum that we can get is from 1 watering every 1 week. So if we water once every week, every 1 week, we get really good vigorous roots. So those roots that have been preconditioned for 1 month with 1 watering per week, and then we transplant them, then you can see pretty much the outcome and the roots that they grow. But let's not forget and see a little bit, let's go back and look a little bit at the 1 watering every 2 weeks. Here you can see also that we do have root growth potential, even under those very limited water conditions of 1 watering every 2 weeks. So what does this mean? Of course, we use less water. You can see here the root growth. The differences are very, very obvious. We really like the results that we saw. So if we have these things in our mind as conclusions, and it's short term, in the short term, we can see and determine best irrigation treatments to produce actually better seedlings. And when by better seedlings, we mean seedlings that they will be actually able to tolerate and successfully being transplanted out in the field. Of course, create irrigation protocols for the nurseries. This needs to be more extended for other species as well, and this is what we've been doing. And transfer the knowledge for the use of research, research means, and of course, we do save water in short term, even in short term, we do save water. And nowadays, this is a very important tool and need for in our world in general, not the Mediterranean ecosystems, but worldwide. In the long term, if we're able to create some of these kind of protocols, and we can benefit, we can get greater transplanting success for the forested areas that we want. We can identify water frequencies after the transplanting, of course, which is very crucial the first month after the transplant for increasing the success of our seedlings, and best seedling survival for the least amount of irrigation. And this, of course, is under the challenges of climate change. Climate change Well, I am at the IPCC, but you know, climate change is something that, to my opinion, we cannot deny. It happens, and we have to find ways to overcome it. Of course, different species have different thresholds, and we do need to study more about that. And based on the species that we're interested, we need to deviate our results and create our and put into practice the irrigation frequencies that they bring the best outcome to the seedling survival. The age of the transplanted seedlings is another factor that needs to be considered. The time that we conduct the research, or the time that we transplant. Here in Greece, we transplant 2 times a year. One time is early to late fall, and the other one is early spring. So the timing is very important, and of course the genetic source. This is another topic of research that we're working, is the genetic influence on the outcome of those seedlings. So that wonders, and what's next? Of course, what's next to all the scientists? The next is, of course, future research. That's what everybody is aiming for, and that's what we want. We want more outcome. We want more things to see. We want to get more enlightened about the topic. Simple things, get the best results, get the transplanting success that we want, regenerate our ecosystems, and create the biodiversity of our ecosystems that we're really struggling with, especially for Natura areas or areas that they are protected. So let's see, ongoing experiment. So this is the organizations that I mentioned at the first slide. One of them was, I'm the scientific committee of the UNESCO, but pretty much we have a master's program that we run there. Some of the experiments of my students that I have, you can see that we expanded that. The species that you can see at the photos is Platanus orientalis. It's a species that really loves water, on contrary to the Quercus species. So we're trying to see, based on the physiological responses and demands of the species, what is the perfect outcome for that. There's some other experiments on that. We worked on other species, Myrtus communis, Philirea, and many other species that we're working on. So what you saw here is just some glimpse of the research that is ongoing, both in the lab and out in the field. Also, I said that Mediterranean, part of the Mediterranean experts of climate change. So I think this research outcome needs to be disseminated. I was very happy to be part of the selected Greek team that represented the scientists for the international meeting that we had in UNESCO in Venice, in Italy, before the virus strikes. So this is the team, and it's very important to transfer that information, to not to keep it indoors or just into the publications. But we did have this kind of meeting for ways of UNESCO to find solutions for climate change. Hopefully they'll listen to us and we'll get some outcome better. We provided some guidelines. But these are scientists here at the photo that you can see. I was really happy to be part of the AIWCS. This is a Women's Association's branch of UNESCO. So we have here young children to educate them about proper transplanting, transfer that knowledge to them. Here you can see we had, this association is actually international. So we had students from 10 to 14 years old from all the Balkans. So we had 14 countries here, and they were able to speak English, of course, so we can communicate. So you can see they were very happy and they were very excited. So if we really want to transfer knowledge, if we really want to transfer science and put them into their mind, we should work at younger ages. We should work in ages like this, so we can make future citizens that they have the knowledge, but they also have the love for the environments in order to maintain them and be successful at our work. Not So I believe what we're doing is great, but we need to take this outside and inform the kids, because the kids are the future. And if we really love what we're doing, they will understand, because they can tell. So I'm really thankful, and I will be very happy to entertain any questions if you have for me. So thank you very much for having me.